Hello, everybody. Welcome to Monday, February 8th, 2021. Mr. Parrott here with your rundown of what we are doing here on Monday in class, because you're not able to join us today. First off, bell ringer. Answer it up if you have not done so already. We got a couple of questions dealing with our topic today. Going for it there. Second, if you have not submitted our stuff from last week, the survey document with your graph that you created, make sure that you do that. If you have no idea what I am talking about, please go from last week in both the Thursday and Friday folder and do the assignment, because if you don't understand what I'm talking about, that means you didn't do the assignment to begin with. So make sure you double back and make sure that you did that if you have no idea of what the survey was or what this graph thing was, because we spent a pretty good chunk of time in class dealing with that last week on Thursday and Friday. What we're going to look at today is this concept of probability. So let's take a look at that. In order to see that, we are going to, there's a little preview of what you're going to be looking at later today. Go to your February folder. You can click on it there. Go to the Monday, February 8th. Inside of here, you're going to have the slide notes itself and also a blank copy for you if you want to print those out at home and take notes on the actual note pages themselves. It's right there. Otherwise, you got the note slide here. And then the assignment for later on will be right above that. But let's look at what we have going on for our probability stuff today. So it's just objective number 1, which is just one slide long, because we're going to do an activity with this, so we won't spend too much long talking about it. But what we need to do is we need to talk about what probability is to begin with. Probability is a number that tells you how likely it is that something will happen. It's a estimate. It's a percentage in some cases of the outcome of a certain event. So take like the Super Bowl, which just happened. You could have people said before the game that the Chiefs were going to win. A certain amount of people said that the Buccaneers were going to win. They were giving a probability of what they felt like how that event would go. 60% of people say that the Chiefs are going to win versus 40% of people say the Bucs are going to win. That is a probability, because that is describing how likely an event will occur. We're going to use probability in our activity today involving a coin, because coins are very notorious for doing probability. How this relates to genetics is through this principle of independence and how it's going to work. When we are talking about traits, the traits follow this principle of independence, meaning that the actual principle is that the results of one event does not affect the other. So in the terms of genetics, what this means is that we can predict the outcome of what your traits could possibly be using probability, because your hair color is going to be a separate inheritance from your eye color, from your earlobes, from your hitchhiker's thumb, from your Morton toe that you have. Each one of those traits are inherited individually. That's where the independence part comes from. And we can track each one of those traits to see how likely it is that you would have been born with a Morton toe or not a Morton toe. And that's what we're going to get into as we get deeper and deeper into this week, is we're going to make that more of a reality with things. And it's all based off of this concept of probability. Now, that's the end of our notes, because that goes on to objective number 2, and we're just covering one objective. So let's head back to Schoology here. Which I don't tab away because it's in my bar already here, and you'll have the probability assignment. Go ahead and load that up. I have it loaded up right here, and we're going to take a look at what you're going to be doing for your activity. For your activity today, you are only going to need a coin. So hopefully you have something that will give you a heads or a tails. I'm using a nickel. You could use a penny, a quarter, a $50, whatever, something that shows heads versus tails. That's all we need for this. So hopefully you have something that you're able to flip and get a heads versus tails thing on there. Otherwise, I'm sure there's an online coin flipper that you can go to the website of and flip a coin if you don't have one. But pretty sure somewhere you have a coin, hopefully, in there. The first thing that you're going to do is our prediction. You're going to guess how many times it's going to land up heads and how many times it's going to land up tails if we flip it 20 times. There's a couple of pre-lab questions that you'll need to answer. And then we get into the activity itself. You're going to flip a coin 20 times. Every time you flip it, you are going to record whether you got heads or tails. If you want to speed up this process and put H for heads and T for tails, that is A-okay with me. You are going to then get your total numbers down below of how many times you got heads, how many times you got tails. You are going to use this spreadsheet then to gather up our class data, because specifically you're not going to be here, but everybody's going to be putting their class data in here. Very similar to our collection of our traits from Thursday and Friday of last week when you put everything into the document in there. You'll have it in there. At the very bottom, I'll just pull it up. I haven't loaded in our rosters yet, so this will show white teamers here. So it'll be the names on one side. As you put in the numbers, it'll calculate it out. You're going to need these two numbers at the bottom for the heads versus tails, and you are going to put them here where it says the number of heads that were gathered and the number of tails that were gathered. You can add those two up to get your number of total flips calculated out. And then there is 6 questions for you to answer afterwards. So depending on your hour, you might have to wait for that hour in order to get the class data. So for example, if you're in 7th or 8th hour, you might have to wait for towards the end of the school day in order to get that class data for you, in order to draw that stuff up and be able to calculate out everything that you need there. But that's what you would need to do for it. Yeah, and then once you're done, make sure that you submit it up and be on its way. If you have any questions as you're working on these things, do not hesitate to ask. Otherwise, I'll be here waiting and willing for you to return and or answer any questions that you may have. Otherwise, I hope you're doing well. I hope that you get back here sooner rather than later. And yeah, that's basically it. When you're done with the 6 questions there at the end, you turn it in, you're done with probability, and we'll look at some of our vocabulary terms tomorrow. So I guess I will see you later.